Have you ever stared into the night sky and felt a strange mix of wonder and longing? As if the vastness of the cosmos was whispering to you, drawing you into a mystery far greater than you can grasp. What if that feeling isn't just poetic sentiment, but a divine invitation? What if the stars were not silent? What if they are telling a story? Not just of matter and time, but of a person, of Jesus Christ, not only as Savior, but as the very architect of the universe. We talk about Jesus in churches and devotions, in prayer and theology. But what if we've only begun to see who he truly is? What if Jesus is written into the structure of atoms, the force of gravity, the dance of galaxies? The Bible doesn't begin with a parable or a moral lesson. It begins with reality. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It doesn't start with humanity. It starts with creation, cosmic, grand, immeasurable. This first verse doesn't just claim that the world had a beginning. It declares that the universe has a maker. That behind every quasar, every particle, every movement of light is willful, intelligent love. And then the New Testament takes that foundational idea and sharpens it into focus. John writes, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Through him all things were made." And that Word, John later reveals, became flesh. Jesus. This is not symbolic. The scriptures are not simply saying that Jesus is an important part of creation. They're declaring that he is the source of it. The Logos, the eternal Word, is not an impersonal force. He is a person. He is Jesus Christ. Think about that. Before Bethlehem, before Abraham, before the Garden of Eden, before there was even such a thing as time, he was. Jesus existed eternally, and in him, through him, and for him, all things were made. Colossians tells us, "In him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him." The scale of this claim is astonishing. Every natural law, every unseen atom, every burst of energy across the galaxies, Christ authored it. Every string theory, speculation, and quantum fluctuation, all of it hangs together in the unity of his will. But even more breathtaking is what follows. In him all things hold together. That's not just poetic language, it's reality. Jesus is not simply the initial spark of creation. He is its ongoing pulse, the glue of gravity, the unseen bond in molecules, the rhythm of seasons. Every order and beauty in nature is actively held together by him. Without his constant sustaining presence, reality would unravel. Science speaks of finely tuned constants in the universe: gravitational pull, electromagnetic force, strong and weak nuclear forces, all perfectly balanced to allow life to exist. Slight variations would mean chaos. Scientists call this the fine-tuning of the universe, and they marvel at it. Scripture gives it a name: Jesus. When we look at the stars, we are not just seeing burning gas, we're seeing fingerprints. Each point of light is a reminder: this was made, this is sustained, this is known. The psalmist wrote, "He determines the number of the stars and calls them each by name." And that's not primitive thinking, it's prophetic. It's the echo of an ancient understanding that everything we see is personal, intimately known. And if the stars are known, how much more are we? That changes how we see the universe. It's not cold, it's not distant, it's not meaningless. It is humming with glory. Every sunrise, every ocean current, every insect wing, saturated in the creative joy of the Word made flesh. This realization also changes how we understand Jesus. We often confine him to history, to sandals and sermons, to a cross and a tomb. But he is not just the man from Nazareth. He is the pre-existent Christ, the one who called galaxies into motion and painted Saturn's rings with delight. He is the one who speaks not only to human hearts, but into the very structure of existence. This should fill us with reverent awe. And not the kind of fear that makes us shrink, but the kind that expands the soul, that draws us into wonder, into worship, into adoration that no song can fully express. Because when we see Christ as creator, we begin to glimpse how vast, how beautiful, how layered and living reality truly is. And in that awareness, something else happens. We remember who we are. Made in his image, designed by him, loved before we were born. Formed with the same intentionality that forged the constellations, not afterthoughts, not accidents, but known, loved, and upheld, always. This is the story science cannot tell. This is the truth theology struggles to capture, that the Word who was with God and was God, he is the one who made everything. He is the one who entered everything, and He is the one who sustains everything, even now. So when you look into the sky tonight, don't just marvel at the scale. Remember the person behind it. Remember that Jesus was not only born beneath the stars, He is the one who spoke them into being. And He has not gone silent. He still speaks. He still holds. He still loves. Creation is not silent. It's groaning. Beneath the surface of the beautiful and the breathtaking, there is a deep, aching sound, an unrest that can't be ignored. It's in the rustle of dying leaves, in the quiet decay of bones, in the drift of collapsing stars. And Scripture doesn't shy away from this reality. It names it, it embraces it, it explains it. In Romans chapter 8, the Apostle Paul writes, "The whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth, right up to the present time." This isn't a metaphor for human suffering alone. It's a cosmic cry, a recognition that something in the structure of existence is not as it should be. The world we inhabit is filled with beauty, yes, but it's also filled with fracture. And the Bible traces that fracture back to the fall. When humanity chose independence from God, the consequences rippled outward. Not just into human hearts and human history, but into the very soil, the sky, the DNA of creation. Thorns appeared, sweat became struggle. Death entered the picture, not as a natural rhythm, but as an invader. The universe was wounded by our rebellion, and it still bears the scars. This idea can sound strange to modern ears, but when we look at the world through this lens, suddenly things begin to make sense. The majesty of a sunset, the cruelty of disease, the brilliance of life, the tragedy of loss. These are not random or meaningless. They are the visible symptoms of a deeper story. And the creation groans, not in despair, but in hope. Paul compares it to labor pains, not death throes. The universe is not dying, it's giving birth, and what it's giving birth to is new creation. But that restoration is not automatic, it's anchored in a person. Paul writes that creation is waiting for the children of God to be revealed. In other words, the healing of the world is tied to the redemption of humanity. And that redemption has a name: Jesus Christ. This is where the gospel breaks open with cosmic power. Because when Jesus died, He didn't just die for people. He died for everything. For the dirt, for the stars, for the systems of life that had been twisted out of shape. He died to take the full weight of the curse, the fracture, the groan, and in His resurrection, He began the reversal. That's why the resurrection matters. Not just because it gives us hope for life after death, but because it announces the beginning of a new world, a new kind of existence. The tomb is empty, and the world has begun to turn in a new direction. But for now, we live in the tension. The kingdom has come, but not in full. The victory is won, but the battle still echoes. We feel it in our bones, in the headlines, in the quiet moments of grief we don't know how to name. We know the world is not as it should be, and yet, because of Jesus, we also know it won't stay this way. This hope is not naive, it's not blind optimism. It's rooted in the character of God and in the reality of what Christ has already done. He didn't stay distant from the suffering. He entered it, He lived it, He carried it, and now He's redeeming it from the inside out. Even nature testifies to this rhythm. After winter comes spring, after death comes new life. Every seed that dies in the ground whispers resurrection. Every tree that blossoms after a long freeze sings of redemption. Every cry of grief is matched by the deeper voice of promise. This is not the end. We are not called to escape the groaning. We are called to live faithfully within it, to listen to it, to let it shape us, soften us, remind us of the world we were made for. We are not just waiting for heaven. We are bearing witness to its slow arrival. Every act of compassion, every moment of forgiveness, every time you choose beauty over bitterness, hope over cynicism, love over fear, you are participating in the quiet revolution of Christ's redemption. You are declaring with your life that the darkness doesn't win. And in this waiting, in this tension, we are not alone. The Spirit of God lives within us, groaning with us, interpreting our sighs, empowering our love. And the same Christ who holds galaxies together is holding us too. Creation groans, but it's not groaning in vain. Something new is being born. The curse is being undone, and the hands that formed the stars are still at work, shaping, healing, restoring, even now, even here. It's one thing to say that the Creator holds all things together from afar, but the Gospel makes a more shocking claim that He came near. that the author wrote himself into the story, not as a distant narrator, but as a character with blood and breath. That the God of thunder, stars, and atoms became a child who cried in the night. This is the incarnation, the infinite made intimate. It began in the womb of a young woman in a forgotten town. No spectacle, no cosmic fireworks, just quiet, hidden forming. The Word, through whom all things were made, became flesh in the silence of a mother's body. And when he was born, it wasn't into royalty or privilege. It was into straw and cold and obscurity. The Creator entered his creation not with applause, but unnoticed by nearly all of it. This is not how we expect God to behave. We expect him to dazzle us with power, to assert dominance, to overwhelm with glory. Instead, he comes vulnerable. He comes weak. He comes poor. But it's in this very weakness that we see the deepest strength. Because in taking on flesh, Jesus dignified it. In becoming human, he affirmed the goodness of the material world he had spoken into being. He didn't come to escape the body, he came to redeem it. To feel hunger and pain and fatigue, to walk dusty roads and hold children and weep at graves. Every touch, every breath, every heartbeat was divine love clothed in skin. This was not a temporary disguise. It was a forever choice. The incarnation wasn't a costume Jesus put on for a few years. It was a permanent union. The eternal Son of God will always be the God-man, fully God, fully human. And that union changed the destiny of creation. Because now we know God is not distant. He is not immune. He is not unfeeling. He is the one who knows what it's like to be misunderstood, to be rejected, to be exhausted, to bleed. He is the one who entered into our suffering, not to observe it, but to carry it, to be crushed by it. And in being crushed, to begin the healing of all things. The incarnation tells us that there is no part of life too ordinary for God to enter. No moment too small, no pain too hidden. If he could be born in a stable, raised in poverty, mocked and betrayed, then he can meet us in the middle of our quietest, darkest nights. We often search for God in the spectacular. But the manger reminds us he is in the mundane, he is in the unnoticed, he is in the long waiting and the quiet faithfulness. He is in the tears we hide and the hopes we dare not speak aloud. He didn't enter the story to demand worship. He came to reveal love. He healed the sick, yes, but he also sat at tables. He taught the crowds, but he also took children in his arms. He spoke truth, but he did so with mercy. Every act of Jesus in his earthly life was both revelation and restoration. It showed us who God is and what God intended creation to be. In his voice was the echo of Genesis. In his touch was the whisper of Eden, and in his presence people felt something ancient and true. This is what life was meant to be. But it wasn't just about showing us, it was about saving us. Because the same Christ who walked among us also walked toward the cross. He didn't come just to sympathize with our brokenness, he came to bear it, to take the full weight of sin, of shame, of death, and through that suffering to crush the power of all that separates us from life. It's here in the incarnation that the Creator's love becomes most visible. Not in thunder or force, but in tenderness, in vulnerability, in a willingness to stoop lower than we imagined God would ever go. And because of that, no one is beyond his reach. No place is too dark, no soul too shattered. He has already gone to the lowest place, and from there he is lifting us up. This is not just comforting. It's world-changing. It means our bodies matter, our work matters, our meals and conversations and relationships, all of it is sacred. All of it is part of the story that God has entered and is redeeming. The Word became flesh, and flesh will never be the same. Matter is no longer just matter, it's the place God has chosen to dwell. And if he has come once in the body of Jesus, he can come again, in bread and wine, in brother and sister, in the holy ground of ordinary life. The incarnation is not just a moment in time, it's an eternal truth. That God is not far off, he is near. Closer than your breath, closer than your thoughts, closer than your pain. He is not only the creator of the cosmos, he is the companion of the lonely, the comforter of the broken, the lifter of the lowly, and this changes everything. The one who entered the world through flesh did not come only to dwell in it, he came to transform it. The life of Jesus, radiant with compassion and filled with divine purpose, marched steadily toward a moment that would split history and shake the foundations of both heaven and earth. The resurrection of Christ is not merely the happy ending to a tragic story. It is the cosmic turning point, the moment the new creation burst forth from the tomb. For 3 days, the body of Jesus lay silent. The Word who spoke the universe into being now rested in death. The maker of life, wrapped in grave clothes. And yet in that silence, something deeper was unfolding. Death itself was unraveling. The old order was being dismantled from the inside. Sin, shame, decay, every agent of destruction was losing its grip. When Jesus rose from the grave, it wasn't just a miracle. It was a declaration, a thunderous cry across all time and space. Death is not the end. It doesn't get the final word. Life does. Love does. The resurrection wasn't simply about Jesus returning to life. It was the beginning of something entirely new, a new kind of existence. A glorified body, still human, still bearing the scars, yet no longer bound by corruption or decay. And in that resurrected body, we see the blueprint for all of creation. Paul calls Jesus the first fruits of the resurrection, the first taste of the harvest to come. His rising signals not just hope for individual believers, but the restoration of everything. Every molecule, every creature, every dimension of reality. This is why the early church was so bold, why they lived with joy even in persecution. They had seen the future embodied in the risen Christ, and they knew that resurrection wasn't just about what happens after death, it was about how we live now. Because if the resurrection is true, then everything is different. Our work is not in vain, our pain is not pointless, our waiting is not wasted. Everything matters, every act of kindness, every word of truth, every decision to love when it's hard. These are not small. They are seeds of the new world planted in the soil of the old. Creation itself is leaning toward this renewal. Groaning, yes, but not in despair, in expectation, in longing. The universe has felt the tremor of the resurrection, and it is waiting for the fullness to come. Jesus' victory over death is not a one-time event. It's a ripple, a revolution, a rising tide, and we are swept up in it. We are not just recipients of new life, we are participants in it. We are part of the work God is doing to bring everything back to wholeness. This shapes how we see our world. The resurrection means we don't give up, not on ourselves, not on others, not on the planet, not on the beauty still buried under brokenness. We live with hope, not because things are easy, but because we know how the story ends, with life, with restoration, with glory. But this hope is not passive. It calls us to action, to love boldly, to serve sacrificially, to forgive endlessly, to bring resurrection light into dark places, knowing that light has already won. Jesus didn't rise for himself. He rose for us, for the world, for the cosmos he crafted and came to redeem. His resurrection body is the down payment on a new creation, a promise that the curse will be broken, that tears will be wiped away, that joy will rise from ashes. And so we don't live for escape. We live for transformation. We don't shrink from the world. We step into it with eyes wide open and hearts full of resurrection power. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead now dwells in us. That means we carry the future in our bones. We walk through the present with resurrection in our steps. Every injustice resisted, every hungry person fed, every lonely heart embraced, every broken soul mended. It all belongs to this grand story of renewal. We are resurrection people. Not defined by fear, but by faith. Not overcome by darkness, but carrying light. Not lost in despair, but rooted in the hope that cannot be shaken. The tomb is empty, and the world is being made new. Not just someday, not just in heaven, but now. Here, through us, with him. The empty tomb is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. It is the dawn of a world reclaimed, the first breath of creation remade. But this resurrection life, this newness that began with Christ, does not merely hover above us like a distant promise. It is here, present in our world, pressing in through the cracks, unfolding with every choice to love, every act of courage, every movement toward wholeness. This is the reality we now inhabit. We live in the overlap of ages, between the already and the not yet. The kingdom has come, and yet it is still coming. The resurrection has begun, and yet all of creation still waits. But make no mistake, the trajectory of everything is restoration. The arc bends not toward chaos, but toward renewal. The whole cosmos is being reconciled, not by force, but by the pierced hands of a risen king. In Revelation, John sees a vision of what lies ahead, a new heaven and a new earth. Not as a replacement for the old, but as its fulfillment. Not as a spiritual escape, but as a physical transformation. God does not discard what he makes. He redeems it. He makes all things new, not all new things. And what does John see at the center of this renewed reality? Not a cold throne of power, but a lamb. The lamb who was slain. The same Jesus who spoke galaxies into being, who walked dusty roads, who was crucified and raised. He is the center. His love is the axis on which the whole universe turns. The city of God that John describes is filled with light, not from sun or moon, but from the glory of Christ. There is no temple because God is not contained. He dwells fully with his people. No more tears, no more death, no more night, every sorrow healed, every injustice undone, every wound made whole. This is not fantasy. This is the Christian vision of hope, not vague comfort, but concrete promise. A restored world, a resurrected creation, a cosmos in which God's presence fills everything and everything flourishes in his presence. And this isn't just a future to anticipate, it's a calling to embody. If this is where the story is headed, then how we live now matters. We are citizens of the kingdom to come, called to live its values here and now, to build bridges instead of walls, to plant gardens where there's been ruin, to speak truth where there's been silence, to extend grace where there's been shame. We are not waiting for escape, we are training for eternity. Every act of love is practice for the world that's coming. Every moment of beauty is a foretaste. Every act of mercy is a declaration. The King is alive and his kingdom is real. This vision gives meaning to our waiting. The tension we feel in our bones, the ache for more, the longing for peace, it's not failure. It's the echo of Eden and the pull of new creation. We are caught between memory and hope, and it hurts. But it's a holy ache, a hopeful ache, because the end is certain. Not because we are strong, but because Christ is faithful. Not because we have figured it out, but because he has finished the work. And he who began this good work will complete it, in you, in me, in the world. So lift your eyes. The story is bigger than your fear, wider than your wounds, longer than your past. You were made not for survival, but for glory. Not for isolation, but communion. Not for despair, but for the unshakable hope of resurrection. Let that hope shape everything. Let it soften your anger, steady your heart, ignite your love. Let it pull you into the present, not as one who drifts, but as one who walks with purpose, with dignity, with joy. Because you walk in the light of the risen Christ. You breathe the air of a world being remade. You carry within you the fire of the Spirit who hovered over the deep and now hovers over your life. This is the story. From creation to incarnation to crucifixion to resurrection to renewal. It's not a tale of escape, it's a testimony of transformation, and you are part of it. You are not too late, not too lost, not too small. You are precisely where you are meant to be, in a universe held together by grace, beckoned forward by love, and sustained by the one who said, "Behold, I am making all things new." So let that truth be the song in your bones, the stillness in your chaos, the strength in your step. Let it carry you into tomorrow with eyes wide open, ready to see beauty where others see brokenness, ready to build what others have given up on, ready to believe when belief feels foolish. And when you wonder whether any of this could possibly be true, look again at the empty tomb, at the Lamb, at the stars, at your own longing. It all points to the same story. Jesus, the maker of all, is also the restorer of all. And he is not done yet. You are part of a story that began before time and stretches beyond it. A story written into the stars, whispered through creation, revealed in the face of Christ, and now unfolding through your very life. This is not mythology. This is not spiritual escapism. This is reality, deep, eternal, pulsing beneath everything that is. When you wake up to this truth, even the smallest parts of life begin to glow with meaning. The meal shared in silence. The forgiveness offered when it costs you something. The stillness in prayer when no words come. These are not throwaway moments. They are echoes of eternity, seeds of resurrection, glimpses of the world that is on its way. You were not made for a story of isolation. You were not born for a life of meaningless cycles. You were created to carry the image of the divine, to walk with the Word who became flesh, to rise with the one who conquered death. Your longings are not random. Your ache for justice, your hunger for love, your yearning for wholeness, these are not flaws in your wiring. They are holy signals, traces of your true home. And home is not up in the clouds. It is not far away. It is coming here. A redeemed earth, a healed cosmos, a place where the boundaries between heaven and creation dissolve into light and the presence of God floods everything. So do not despair. Do not numb yourself. Do not give in to cynicism. Lift your head. Remember what is true. The Christ who made the stars also made you. The Christ who entered the womb and the tomb also enters your ordinary days. The Christ who rose in glory is rising still, in you, in the church, in the hidden corners of a wounded world. Walk with this awareness. Let it shape how you speak, how you love, how you see. Live in resistance to the lie that death wins. Live in defiance of the idea that all of this is meaningless. Let your life tell the truth that Jesus is alive, and that resurrection is not only behind us, but ahead of us, around us, breaking through in real time. When the nights feel long and the sky seems silent, know this: the silence is not empty. It is pregnant with presence. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," is still speaking. The same breath that raised Christ from the dead still breathes in you. The same power that holds the galaxies together still holds you, tenderly, faithfully, forever. And so we live not as orphans, but as heirs, not as spectators, but as stewards of a hope that will not fade. We are resurrection people in a groaning world, a people of the cross and of the empty tomb, a people of dirt under our nails and fire in our bones, a people waiting, working, worshipping. Because Jesus Christ, the Alpha and the Omega, the Lamb and the Lion, the crucified and risen one, is not only the meaning of our personal stories. He is the meaning of the cosmos. Everything finds its center in him. Everything is held together in him, and everything is moving toward him. So, to every weary soul, every searching heart, every person who wonders if they still matter in a universe so vast, hear this: you are not forgotten. You are not lost. You are not alone. You are known. You are loved. You are held. And your story, no matter how broken it feels, is part of something beautiful, something vast, something that will end not in darkness, but in dazzling, unspeakable light. This is the path we walk, holy, mysterious, radiant with glory. And you are right where you need to be. Thank you for listening. May peace, wonder, and resurrection light fill your soul, and may you always know the stars above you, the Spirit within you, and the Savior who walks beside you are all telling the same story. And it is very, very